Oh, the new Second Thought video. Let's watch the new Second Thought video first, and then then that'll help us loop back to this. Transitions, chat. The way to be a good Twitch streamer is to try to find videos and content that smoothly transition from one to the other. You know, you got to have a continuous narrative that you're building up over the course of the stream. But it needs to have entry points so that when people hop on, they're not totally lost. That's a little pro tip. It's why streaming is harder than it's not that it's harder, it's a skill set. Second Thought vid. What if we just stopped working? We already know the answer to this question, chat. The system would collapse. Maddie,
this
baby,
episode and others like it are made possible by the generous support of my patrons on Patreon. My AdSense revenue has completely tanked in the last couple months. So if you'd like to help support this channel and get a bunch of cool perks while you're at it, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/secondthought.
Oh, no.
What if we stopped working? No, really, what if tomorrow we just didn't clock in? What if every single one of us just stopped, right now, and saw what would happen?
Bikini Bottom is literally in a state of total chaos tonight. Oh, literally!
The real answer is things would go downhill real fast. It would be, like, so bad. Empty shelves, empty cities, empty promises even. We wouldn't make it very long without anybody doing anything we call work. But that doesn't make what if we stopped working a useless question. Because in an otherwise simple answer, it would suck, there's something a little more interesting hiding in the background, just out of focus. What is that? Enhance. Enhance! If the answer to what if we stopped working is we can't, that begs the question, how close can we get? And that question, well, that question has some pretty interesting answers. Let's back up. If you go to parties, you've probably been asked the question, what do you do? If you answer, I make YouTube videos, no you don't. Who would ever give you the chance to give that answer? See, the joke here is that YouTubers have no friends. Like, no one at all. Like, bottom of the barrel, trapped in a pit of loneliness. Anyway.
Okay, dude, with the parasocial shit. Oh, poor Second Thought doesn't have any friends. He doesn't have any friends. He's all alone. He wants you to subscribe to his Patreon to help him feel better. Okay, dude.
Fact that what do you do is the default punch bowl question demonstrates at least one thing about our current society. Work is one of, if not the biggest part of our lives. But it doesn't have to be. Already, multiple countries are trying out things like a 4-day
all
work.
The time, Pog you or Pogo. Really, bro? Would I ever promise you friendship in exchange for material benefit to myself? I think not.
Week. How does this work? In countries like New Zealand, Spain, and Iceland, they ran experiments with shortening the work week to just 4 days, and then they wrote down the results, and now we're looking at them. One of the better known cases here is Iceland, which ran a couple experiments between 2015 and 2019 after unions started pushing for more time off. For a lucky 2,500 Icelandists, for a lucky 2,500 people, time on the job was decreased to just 4 days, going from 40 to around 35 hours a week. Crucially, without salaries going down even a single frozen fish, or whatever they use for currency over there. Unsurprisingly, it worked really well. People were happier, less likely to experience burnout.
I personally, I support this. I'd rather work 9 hours a day for 4 days a week than 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Obviously, you're working less hours, but like I'd be more productive in those 9 hours. Just not having to engage your brain into work mode, to have that rest day, having a couple days where you get to sleep. Oh, and this is even better. Having 1 day during the work week where you're free and you could take care of shit. Like, you know how much of a pain in the ass it is to do things because you're working 9 to 5? Then you can't go to like stores. You know, they close at 6 or some shit. And you're rushing there at lunch. You're rushing there right after work. It sucks. Having a whole day during the week is incredible. I worked 4 10-hour days before COVID and worked 3 10-hour days most weeks since. I'm extremely fortunate. Yeah, that's 10 times, quadrillion times better. 4 10s and Wednesdays off since 2019. It's a godsend. I think 10 hours a day is too long. I think for that, you need to cut down the number of hours you're working in the week. But yeah, I'd rather have a 4-day work week for sure. For sure.
Healthier. Overall, they just had a better life. And thanks to the successes of the experiment and the strength of trade unions, over 80% of people in all of Iceland shortened their working hours or gained the right to after these trials were run. Even fancy business people in suits were happier because they got to save on some of their costs and didn't see a dip in productivity. Because, as you might not find very surprising, productivity has a diminishing returns curve. The longer you work, the less productive you are. Each new hour of time on the job brings less and less benefit and is more and more justified in being lopped off entirely. And these sorts of experiments are all well and good, but what if we went even further? This week's episode is a little different. Usually, videos on this channel focus on the bad stuff. Ooh, we hate bad stuff. Sorry, ignore him, I don't know how he got in here. And no doubt about it, this video is still going to have some of that, with a side of political theory to appease the nerds. But for the next 15 or so minutes, we're mainly going to answer a couple questions about work. What it is, why it's such a big deal for some people, and why it could just not be. Because it could. We don't need to work so damn hard.
It reminds me of people, like, the culture of work in Japan, chat, is probably one of the most toxic in the planet, and they're not productive. The Japanese are not productive with those extra hours. They just have to sit there for fucking face. They have to sit there so people don't think they're lazy. It has nothing to do with actually working. It's just showing up and being there in the office like, meh, and then going to after work activities. Meh. It's all social dynamics bullshit. It's nothing objective. It's nothing based on like how many units you push or whatever. It's physically occupying the space and being controlled by your employer. Is valued in and of itself. It's stupid. They have to sit there until their boss leaves, and this most moronic shit ever. That's why I would never live in Japan. I mean, I guess I could live in Japan now as a streamer because I'd be immune to that aspect of Japanese culture for the most part, personally. But like, that's absolutely batshit insane. It's the same energy of making cashiers stand so they look like they're working. Oh my God. That reminds me of the Larry David, the George Costanza. Oh, actually, it's George Costanza episode of Seinfeld where he sees the security guard standing and he's like, "Why do they make you stand? Why don't they get you a chair?" So George like fights to get this guy a rocking chair, and the security guard ends up falling asleep, and then there's a robbery, which I guess implies that they need to torture the security guard so that robberies don't happen. Like, U.S. workers literally work longer than Japanese on average. I'm sure that's true at this point. We're a slave society, so why not? He leaves his car parking spot at Yankee Stadium, so it looks like he's always the first in, last out. Oh, that's one of the best episodes too. Is George comes up with this idea that he'll leave his car just at the Yankees parking lot in his space, and then he'll just go on vacation. And the executives think he's burning the midnight oil, and then I think somebody borrows his car. One of his friends borrows the car, and they wreck it, but they take it back to the parking space wrecked, and they can't get in contact with George because it's, this is before cell phones. And the Yankees management see George's car is totally destroyed, that they can't find him. Yeah, it's really funny. So they think he's dead. Don't forget the mechanism to sleep under his desk at work. Oh yeah, what a genius. I've been standing around work for 11 hours the past 3 days with literally no work to do because some scheduled maintenance took longer than expected. So I'm trying my hardest to look busy, aka pacing to different parts of the building. Amazing. Truly amazing. Capitalism.
You'd think that fact would make for easy political points, just right there for the taking. Who wouldn't vote for the candidate or the party that's going to make their lives more pleasant, less constrained, more free of work? And in some countries, they do have that kind of politics. But the reality is that neither major political party here in the US is trying to reduce the time we spend at work.
We have to get back to work. Our people want to work. They want to go back. They have to go back.
A job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about your place in the community.
Neither party is trying to meaningfully reduce our working hours, despite enough people hating their jobs so much that Forbes, of all magazines, can run a listicle with 15 ways to, quote, rise above resenting your job, with such helpful tips as get over it. That's not to say that the sentiment doesn't exist at all in our government. Democrat Mark Takano is trying to get a bill for a 32-hour work week through Congress. But by and large, neither party is anti-work. Should they be? Okay, let's go over some definitions. Despite being an illegal Wordle guess, work is actually a word. Work is the effect we have on the world. It's using your physical or mental effort to achieve something, without any work at all by anyone.
He broke up the B-roll by adding a clip of them on a website. Truly amazing craft you're seeing here, chat, from the YouTuber.
We'd all die. Without nurses, electricians, teachers, people getting out of bed to make breakfast, society would crumble pretty quickly. We would be completely idle, and not for long. Some amount of work always needs to be done.
Today is my last day. Should I leave early? What, are you quitting? Like, what's going on? I mean, if you're done with your shit and your office is cleaned out and you're not doing anything, you don't have any more work to do. It's a fucking Friday. Unless you're getting paid by the hour, like, you know, get the fuck out of there. Yeah, I'm quitting and watching you the rest of the day. Nice.
Nowadays, some work gets paid with money, and some work gets paid with no money or barely any money, and also disdain. Being against work, or anti-work if you spend any time on the worst place on the internet, isn't ignoring that fact. It's recognizing that some work always needs to be done, but that the conditions that shape that work should be different than they are now.
Listen, Reddit is very bad, but it's not the worst place. But it's bad. It's bad. What's going to happen to my one-day Prime shipping? Yeah.
Saying that the goal shouldn't be to work as much as possible, but as little as possible to achieve what we want. The goal is to maximize leisure and the quality of that leisure by balancing that interest with the necessity of work. The goal isn't to not work at all, but to work for things that matter and on good terms. This is going to sound really obvious, but for most of us, that's not how work goes. Work is something we need to do to get access to the things we need to live, like food, shelter, and healthcare. Under capitalism, the only way to get these basic necessities of life is to work in some way or another and get a wage at the end. You work or you starve.
Or,
seems pretty coercive.
If you're part of the proletariat, it's based on your class, right? So, like, if you are born into a family with a lot of wealth, you never have to lift a fucking finger in your entire life. That's why we have that billionaire kid. You guys know that billionaire kid video? Oh my god, I almost want to react to it. You think that kid's doing work? I fucking hate that kid more than life itself. I really do. I think that guy, oh, what? He's scum. He truly is scum. Bobby, oh, fuck me. I hate that guy. Like, legitimately hate that guy.
Coercive.
Live forever mode? Is this April 1st?
While at work, you have no or very little input on your work conditions. Sometimes they're okay, other times not. On top of that, our whole lives are conditioning us for that reality and imbuing it with value. Work will set you free, no pain, no gain, or there's no such thing as a free lunch are some examples of the ideological discourse that accompanies the material reality of coercion and makes it seem more natural, more palatable. Our necessity to work is accompanied by a psychopolitics trying to enshrine work, in the largest possible sense, as a value. But it doesn't seem to work as well as the benefactors of that discourse want it to.
My boyfriend's brother brags about how much he works on a weekly basis, and it drives me nuts. I just want to ask him why he's bragging about how much he's exploited as a worker. Man. Work smarter, not harder is what I say. Whenever I run into one of those people, I say, it's about working smarter, not harder. If you work hard, good for you. But if it gives you bad results, you're just ineffective. If you have to work extra hours to produce as much as I do in one day, that just means you're ineffective. Why are you so ineffective? What are you doing that's causing you to waste so much time? That's usually how you troll those people.
When you consider how much of our time we spend thinking about not working, whether it's dreaming up a vacation.
Peasant! Oh, this is an oldie and a goodie. We're gonna bring that one back.
We want to take, fantasizing about winning the lottery and quitting, or buying an ironic Garfield mug. It seems like we all want to stop working pretty badly. And yet, when we're given the chance, a good chunk of us keep working even when we don't need to. Some billionaires still work, as do many lottery winners. Retirees often volunteer or continue working in some capacity, even when their needs are met and they're supposed to be in the part of their lives where they stop. So, do we like to work, or do we hate it? The obvious answer is that it depends. What does it depend on? Meaning. When we find work meaningful, we're more than happy to do it. And there are a couple ways that work can have meaning. There's the most obvious one, which is that work which allows us to develop our talents and interests, to self-actualize. Then there's work that grants us autonomy and control over the work itself and the product of that work. And of course, there's work that produces something of importance. These kinds of really obvious factors give work meaning, and help explain why people work on things even when they have no need to and could live in complete and total leisure. But unfortunately, in the US and the UK, around a quarter of people feel like their job is completely meaningless. And a big chunk of people on top of that aren't really sure, don't really know if their job is meaningless. They just don't know, they can't figure it out. Which is really to say that their jobs aren't evidently meaningful either. That doesn't mean that every single one of their jobs is entirely pointless. Meaning and purpose are different, even if there's bound to be a big overlap in that group between pointless and meaningless work. But it definitely means that, at the very least, those jobs are alienating. They're jobs that feel bad to do. They're jobs that aren't imbued with meaning. And that's not even the whole picture. Of the 8 to 9 hours spent every day at work by millions of people, between 1.5 and 3 of them are spent on private activities. We might call this wasted time. Not in the sense that it's not good, it's totally fine by me, but in the sense that it's not really the purpose of being at your job. But as you might expect, or are doing right now watching this video, in which case, nice, workers
say something about work. There's this kind of liberal mantra about like, love what you work and you'll never feel like you're working. That's dumbass shit. That's dumbass shit. Fuck you. I don't care if you love what you work. I'll give you an example. Say you're a Twitch streamer and you love streaming. There are still days where you're like, fuck, I don't feel good about myself. I don't have a lot to say, blah, 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 blah. But you still start that stream because you do it for money. If you do what you love for work, you're going to turn what you love into work. That's actual reality of how things work. Doesn't mean you can't enjoy it more than you would do some other task for money, but working is for money so that you can survive. That's why people do it. We should value people for what they provide for us, not because it's fulfilling. Do you think it's fulfilling to clean toilets as a janitor or pick up trash as a garbage person? In sometimes that could very well be fulfilling, but those are extremely necessary and valuable jobs that we need in a society. If we told everybody who wanted to be a garbage man, oh, are you going to be fulfilled? That would be fucking stupid. We should value them for what they're doing because it's beautiful and important, not because of some sort of like classist bullshit. Work to live, not live to work. Exactly. Make your hobby or your vocation and never have a vacation. Exactly. It's garbage. I choose to teach music based on the love of what you'll do and you'll never work a day in your life mantra, and it turned the thing I love into something I hated. It was horrible. It's taken me years to get back to liking the things I used to love. That's because it's a terrible philosophy that's wrong. Don't believe people when they say shit like that. I clean toilets, but it pays more than my last 4 jobs that require my degree. Fucking own. You're winning, bro. Congrats on getting more money. You can go do stuff with your money that you actually want to do. You can go take vacation, save for retirement. Fucking buy that little knickknack you wanted. Take your significant other out on a fucking nice dinner. You can donate to a charity or to a cause that you believe in. Like, you can relax, go to the fucking spa, get pampered, making more money cleaning toilets than you do at some dipshit bullshit job. Thank you, bro. It might be fulfilling to get paid well to keep the space that you respect clean. The key is to be paid well. Yeah. My job literally provides zero value to society, but I can work from home, watch Twitch, and play video games all day while getting paid. Capitalism, the most efficient mode of production, by the way. Hey, sounds like you're winning. Or you're a parasite that we should expunge in our new socialist future. Luku Moon, thank you for the gifties. Appreciate that.
Spending that time on personal things are still pretending
I
like
just got off a 2-hour call to help someone's computer fixed. I feel depressed the max, even though the job pays well. I mean, you're going to have to dry your eyes with the money, man. I also teach music. I absolutely love my job and wouldn't do anything else. I'm excited to get to work every day because with my students, but dude, by Wednesday, I'm fucking tired. Yeah, no shit. And by the way, if you like what you do, you're not wrong for liking what you do. I'm just saying that as a philosophy, it's stupid.
Being productive during these hours of work that aren't quite downtime, but aren't quite work either. It's ridiculous. While part of this rightfully stolen time is a form of worker resistance, the clear majority of it comes from having nothing to do but being stuck at work, forced to keep up the appearance of click-clacking away or calling people who really don't want to talk to you, just because that's what your boss expects. You're not really free to do what you want, but you're not really working either. And when people are working,
Kelly,
not committing, quote, time theft, and even bigger number of them are working on pointless, mind-numbing tasks like moving data from one Excel spreadsheet to another, responding to emails, or writing reports for someone to throw in a drawer and never look at. Busy work.
I quit my long-term bipolar says I quit my job 2 weeks ago and haven't had my weekly depressed existential crisis since. Nice. As long as you don't put yourself into like financial hardship, leaving a job that sucks is a good idea.
Point of all this is that there's a tremendous number of people who do nothing at all day, by their own admission.
Warren Buffett's Bluff Boy says, the only thing keeping me at my job is the paycheck and the ability to work from home. Boss makes $1, I make a dime. That's why I watch Central Committee on Company Time. If your boss is making $1 and you're making a dime, I should make a penny. Give me what's mine. Tithe that salary. 10% chat. 10% of your salary, right to the Central Committee.
But still have to do it. There's a true army's worth of people wasting their lives behind computers, standing up for long hours in the same 2 square feet, working through the night. And for what? A great many of them just for the appearance of productivity, or the appearance of luxury, or the appearance of importance,
that's right.
to make someone else feel good and pad their wallet just that little bit more by making sure everyone else knows how very important they are. After all, why would someone who's not important have all those underlings? The cost of this bullshit economy is tremendous.
Ooh, bullshit Jobs by is it Grabner or Graeber? I can't remember how to pronounce his name, but Bullshit Jobs is a really, really good book. The author unfortunately died way too young. I'm so mad about that because he was so insightful. Oh man, David Graeber, right? Damn, his death is such bullshit, man. Oh man, it sucks so bad. Second Thought and Deprogram just did a great podcast on Bullshit Jobs. It's a great book. Huddleheimer, thank you for the tier 1s.
Workers are being robbed of a life, and we have a terrible response to this fact of modern society. In liberal circles, the idea is to redirect everybody to public works projects, achieve full employment, bringing money into people's hands so they can spend it on goods that recirculate that money into the economy and produce more, trying to give quote.
I purchased Marx's Capital Illustrated. Did you have the Socialist Manifesto from Bhaskar? That's a great book. Bullshit Jobs is a great book. Democracy in Chains, Dark Money. There's so many. I've recommended so many books.
Quote, dignity to jobs that are clearly just exploitation turned up to 11. On the right, the idea is to pump more money into businesses on the foolish hope that they're going to just create more jobs, or deregulate workers' rights to the extreme so that they can fire everybody into the worst kind of poverty we can conjure up, and pay the lucky few still employed next to nothing. Run the leanest operation possible, Uberize everything, and sell the precarity of unstable, low-paid work without a safety net as choosing your own hours, or being your own boss.
He got necrotic pancreatitis? Wow, he just died suddenly of necrotic pancreatitis. Wow, that's fucking terrible.
Very few people are willing to embrace the most obvious conclusion. A lot of this is unnecessary. We're working too much. If we distribute the workload and the benefits more evenly, we can work a lot less. Politics isn't the only place where myopic conclusions about work are reached. When we get out of the realm of explicitly political discourse, and into the space we arbitrarily separate out as social, the same tropes and attachment to work aren't hard to find. Hustle culture, the rise and grind set, whatever you want to call the ideology juice that gets a millionaire to spend his free time flipping garage sale toys for 15 bucks. This modern phenomenon is another way in which this political attachment to
Gary V is an absolute dipshit and a total fucking loser. I fucking hate Gary V. I think Gary V is probably one of the dumbest content creators that's ever existed, and the fact that Americans buy into this huckster is fucking gross.
Protestant work ethic gets absorbed into our everyday lives. Another way to try to attach meaning to exploitative work, rather than limit labor to work that is already meaningful and practical. Instead, shaping people's entire identity around turning idle time into another buck. Clearly, we have an abundance of free time right there for the taking. So many people wouldn't feel like their jobs were meaningless if there wasn't some truth to it. So much time at work wouldn't be spent slacking if it couldn't be. The truth is, we've made tremendous progress in terms of productivity over the last 100 years.
I would much rather have a job where you come in, you bang out the work, and you leave.
Automation and industrialization alone have taken some of the more laborious activities we used to call work out of human hands entirely. But in over 80 years, the 40-hour...
You want to hear a bullshit job? I get paid to stand in a corner and recommend wines. It's cushy, but there's no need for my position. It can all be done online, but I'm employed so we look luxurious. I don't want to get too personal here, But I have a question for you. Are you related to anybody at the restaurant that owns it or manages it? Did you work as a club promoter, pharmaceutical rep, or model? Would you call it like those type of, that's really interesting. Those kind of jobs. Although I will say this, recommending a wine, you know, that's the knowledge. If you have real knowledge of wines, that's a thing. That's the value there. Also, can I be your assistant? Yeah, exactly. Azon Battalion? Oh my god. Oh, that name. Azon Battalion. Oh, god damn it. When we get the Mike from PA guest appearance on MRN Studio? Oh, that's a good point. I don't know. We always were like, yeah, we should do that. And then we never follow up. Just found out I'd be standing around doing nothing for the next 4 ships because the maintenance just failed spectacularly. Bring a book. Bring in the Nintendo Switch. Also, what's a good wine? I like a red. I'd like deep reds, dry, with some tannins. It doesn't have to fully pucker you, though, you know. I shouldn't feel like I sucked a cork after I drink it. So what would you recommend? Maximum wages now. I did the inflation numbers. We live. 19 crimes is dope. Why not make it 20?
Work week hasn't budged. It's not laziness to ask for more time for leisure. It's efficiency. It's purely pragmatic. We accomplish the same amount in a couple hours as it used to take a full day. More on a Monday than used to be possible with most of a week. We automate
Italian wines. Try a Amarone if you want a good wine, but they're usually $40. Chat, someone buy me a bottle of Amarone by subscribing. 8 gifties.
Away many of the things we didn't want to do so that we had the time to do the things that we do want to do.
I'll have to check
Spending that time we earned creating new jobs where we feel stuck at work for hours on end just because we have
I live in Pennsylvania, Chad, so it's pretty hard for me to buy wine online because the wine industry is controlled by the state. Socialist salesman, thanks for the 8 tier 1s. You'd have to do that. I was joking, but I really appreciate that. Don't you have beer stores in PA? We have beer stores, but they only sell cases of beer. The wine and spirits are owned by the government, Pennsylvania. Hell yeah, dude.
No good mechanism to distribute work and protect the unemployed means failing to realize the goals of automation. It is wasting all that progress. And yes, it's undoubtedly not so black and white. Some of the industrialization and automation...
Can now break the... Oh yeah, they did pass that. They did pass that reform. You could always get 6-pack shops as well. Yeah. I know Blundered Hope. The grocery stores are starting to sell wine now too, but it's typically kind of like crap. Just the sales.
Of the past century has allowed us to take on new work that does actually improve our quality of life. But focusing exclusively on that to justify useless jobs with the sole purpose...
Gas station wine doesn't exist in Pennsylvania. There's no alcohol sales at gas stations.
Of padding some higher-up's wallet and satisfying the doctrine that, well, everybody has to work, is ignoring the main way we could be improving our lives today, making work a smaller part of it. Okay, so what if we tried answering the question, how close can we get to eliminating work, in an unscientific way? If we took the estimate of 25%
There is a Sheets in State College that sells booze. Is it like from the... Is it like a grocery store? They did pass some like reforms for that.
People having meaningless jobs at...
Move to Nevada, you could buy alcohol at your kid's daycare. Who says I think this is bad? I think it's great. I think we should have more nationalized industries. Prices are good. All the workers at the wine and spirit stores are unionized. Union 17, United Food and Commercial Workers, 1776 local. Why the fuck would I want to break up the union and have Walmart sell alcohol? Fuck that.
Face value, which in all fairness is a stretch. We're eliminating 25% of our work hours. Work weeks go from 40 hours to 32 here in the US. That's not bad. And we don't have to accept the fact that these jobs are actually meaningless to want to reduce the time spent on them. Even if these jobs do have a purpose.
I haven't been to the... Oh man, they did... I think Wolf did do the beer and wine at grocery stores thing, which of course... But I haven't been out to Sheets. Oh no. Sheets aren't a gas station.
The feeling of meaninglessness they create clearly demonstrates that they are incredibly mentally damaging for the people working in them. Reducing those and automation of the past century has allowed us to take on new work that does actually improve our quality of life. But focusing exclusively on that to justify useless jobs with the sole purpose of padding some higher-up's wallet and satisfying the doctrine that, well, everybody has to work, is ignoring the main way we could be improving our lives today, making work a smaller part of it. Okay, so what if we tried answering the question, how close can we get to eliminating work, in an unscientific way? If we took the estimate of 25% of people having meaningless jobs at face value, which in all fairness is a stretch, we're eliminating 25% of our work hours. Work weeks go from 40 hours to 32 here in the US. That's not bad. And we don't have to accept the fact that these jobs are actually meaningless to want to reduce the time spent on them. Even if these jobs do have a purpose, the feeling of meaninglessness they create clearly demonstrates that they are incredibly mentally damaging for the people working in them. Reducing those hours, like we would with incredibly physically demanding jobs, makes sense beyond a strict productivity maximization framework. In another example, what if we took that statistic about 1.5 to 3 hours being completely wasted every day? Taking that into account, you end up with somewhere between a 27 and a 33-hour work week. That's also pretty good. And if this seems like an absurd way to calculate how much time we're working, I agree with you. I shouldn't be plucking numbers out of this or that study, doing simple divisions and calling it a day. But this is no less absurd than how we determine work hours right now. Just a couple people at every company write your contract. They set your working hours, with the only limit being what the law says they can't go over, pushing most industries right up to that 40-hour clock out. And the only reason that number isn't any higher is thanks to decades of worker agitation, revolts, protests, demonstrations, other synonyms for people being angry, clawing it from industry. Were it not for the gains of militant workers, we'd still be punching in 12-hour days side by side with newly minted 12-year-olds. This is an absurd way to decide how much work needs to be done. Letting a couple guys make all their demands, and only tempering them when society faces mass-scale agitation and violence bubbling up in the streets is absurd. It shouldn't get to this point. The clearly better way to determine working time is to work for necessity and desire, to make decisions.
Fucking B-roll. Angry guy at meeting throwing charts.
Get to this point. The clearly better way to determine working time is to work for necessity and desire, to make decisions in common about needs and allocations of resources, to use governments, organizations, and democracy everywhere across the board to establish how much we work and how much we set aside for leisure, to disentangle work from necessity so that we can really make these decisions without constantly fearing for our meals and fighting others for the scraps. In short, to include democracy in economic decisions. To take into account our resources and desire to work without constantly fearing that every drop of sweat we don't shed means worrying about being taken over by the other sweatier worker at the other sweatier company. To stop people who profiteer off the work of others.
All this B-roll is stupid office worker bullshit. Can we get some like people, I don't know, fucking framing a house or something?
By hogging everyone else's free time.
Something useful?
To not have a system that decides how much we work based on how much the guy at the top really wants a new watch. Missed birthdays, funerals, and every other life event in between be damned. Now, this isn't about getting back to some primitive way of life, idealized beyond the reality of tremendous hardship and ableism past societies encountered without the technological and social advancements we have today.
That's a useful job. These are bullshit job people. True. The horror stories of 16 to 24-hour days, Capitol, are pretty eye-opening. Like the ones where train conductors were passing out for working 36 hours straight. They'll do that. They love to do that shit. They love to do that shit. If you let the capitalists get away with it, especially if you're a skilled worker, they'll put you on a 24-hour shift immediately. The only way that's stopped is from collective bargaining from unions and safety rules from bureaucratic organizations from the state. There's no fucking way. Like, capitalists will have you run out until you die. Even though that makes them less money in the long term, because they have to like replace you and train someone else up and blah, 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 blah. They don't care. It's about how much you maximize the production in this one discrete day, as opposed to like any kind of medium term thinking, let alone long term. The main thing I've missed during the lockdown is high-fiving all my colleagues at the end of a fun meeting. Yep, that's what we love about meetings, chat. That's what we love about working, having those meetings.
This is about taking stock of all the time going straight down the drain for no good reason other than keeping an unjust system chugging along. This is about enjoying a life like we have now with more time to actually enjoy it. If you spent a couple less hours at Best Buy, would society be okay? Or AutoZone? Or making coffee? Or on the clock in your cubicle? Sure, GDP could go down a bit, But we already know how the GDP gets broken down between the rich and the poor anyway. We wouldn't be maximizing profits and exhausting all the human labor power at our disposal. But that is not the point of being human in the first place. So long as we can reorganize our society towards one in which GDP dips aren't synonymous with austerity for the majority, where we care more about the productive resources at our disposal than the numbers on a screen meant as a proxy of those resources, we can dramatically change the nature of work and how much time we decide to put into it. Even without touching those structures, we can still meaningfully cut our work time. Today, burnout rates are through the roof. More and more people are being pushed into holding multiple jobs. People are desperate for leisure time but can't afford to take it. We as human beings need time to do whatever we want, for everyone. Art, music, reading, going back to school, watching TV shows, playing sports, cooking, being with friends, traveling, volunteering, farming, doing literally nothing, or even working, just on something else. It's within our reach. Our obsession with the ideology of work and the coercive model of decision-making holding our society captive are the only barriers to its achievement. We can build a world where work is rewarding, meaningful, and fair. I'm gonna be honest. YouTube has really been screwing me lately. My AdSense revenue is down to 1/3 of what it was a couple months ago, and subscribers aren't being notified of my uploads. If you'd like to help support content like this, remember to click the bell and select all to make sure you get a notification for each new upload. And if you'd really like to help keep the lights on and you're able to chip in even $1 a month, consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Every patron, regardless of donation amount, gets early access to every video, plus access to our patrons-only Discord server. I do a live Q&A for patrons once a month, and it's always a lot of fun. So if you'd like to join our growing community and help keep my channel afloat, visit patreon.com/secondthought to become a patron. Thank you all so much for your support. I really couldn't do it without you.
This is
If you enjoyed this
great.
video, consider dropping a like. If you hated it, a thumbs down.
This is actually a really
You can
good
check out
video.
my previous episodes by clicking the links on your screen. Thanks
All right,
for
everybody,
watching,
Make sure you,
and I'll see you next week.
throw a view by clicking this link and liking and throwing a comment. Especially plugging me. I mean, obviously that's a great thing you can do with your time.